Welcome to the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with international medical charity Operation Smile. If you can help us raise vital funds for this cause, please donate through our website at emearecruitment.com/operation-smile. In this episode, we speak to George Terziev, VP Head of Group Treasury at Hitachi Energy. He explains how transferrable treasury is for those looking to advance their skills and broaden their career prospects.
So hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with our good friends over at Operation Smile. As my colleague Rose has just mentioned, we're delighted to welcome George Terziev onto the call today. So how are you today, George?
Fine, thank you, Paul. Yourself?
Yeah, it's very good, thank you. We're recording this at mid-June and we have very good weather at the moment, so it's always nice to put a smile on the face, I think. Huh?
Yeah, I hope we get to enjoy it for a bit longer, the nice weather.
No, this is true. It always helps. And obviously I mentioned the fact that the sunny weather can bring a smile around. And given the fact that we partner with Operation Smile on this podcast, I always like to sort of ease the guests into the podcast in a nice way and just ask them really what the last thing was that made you smile. So maybe that's a good question for you to start the podcast off, George. You know, what was the last thing that made you smile?
Right. Let me think. Recently, it was an old joke, actually. I heard it in today's environment of artificial intelligence in Google Translate. We were discussing what's the importance of language. Obviously, a lot of the communication is in English nowadays. But do we still need to learn languages? And there was an old joke or a commercial about learning English for German speakers, where the ship was sinking off the coastal line of northern Germany and was saying, "Mayday, Mayday, I'm sinking." And then the German coastal guard picked up the mic and said, "What are you thinking about?" So I think communication, despite being electronic or Google Translate and primarily in English, I think probably there's still some benefits to speaking some languages in such emergency situations, I guess, right? Although that might be automated nowadays, right?
No, this is true. This is true. Because I think you're fluent in English and in German as well. I think it's
correct. I think in Switzerland, obviously, it's a country of many languages, but where we live in the German part is it's a Swiss German type of dialect.
No, that's it. And I know you've really made Switzerland your home over the years, and one of the things we're going to talk about is your great career and what you've achieved and things you've learned over the time of your career that maybe you can pass on some insights to the network and how you've learned about these things and what they can take from that. And I thought, to start with, given you're in this, well, I would say relatively new role, you've been in the business now for a year, just over a year and a half at Hitachi Energy, and I just wondered what it feels like to be the VP, the Head of Group Treasury for a company like Hitachi Energy at the moment. Yeah,
so I've had a fair amount of experience now, a bit over a year, probably close to a year and a half. And I still happy to report that I feel proud and excited as I was at the time of joining Hitachi Energy. It proved to be a great company, a new carve out, as you know, from legacy ABB into a joint venture with its own trajectory and path of development in an excellent or great market growth potential from a top line revenue growth, playing in power grids connectivity in the renewable energy sector and overall, which is on the top of the list of many companies nowadays. So proud to be part of such a great company. Culture is also very inclusive and diverse, international too, and a great quality of people I found within the company. So still excited to be heading the treasury organization and defining the treasury strategy after the initial carve out and build up. Now it's time, let's say, to look for what's within the medium to longer term in terms of digitization and transformation strategies for treasury and further integration and services within the businesses.
No, it's great to hear. And I think a few times you mentioned there that you're excited to be in the role, excited to be in the company and industry. I mean, I just thought I'd just delve into that a little bit. I mean, because I think a lot of disciplines now, there's a battle to attract younger people who are trying to make their decision on what career to choose. And I wondered, maybe for the benefits of the younger people listening in, what kind of excites you about the role that you're doing and what you've learned over the years? I mean, is there anything specific that you really excites you about the job that you do?
Right. I think the most exciting part is the depth and breadth and complexity of treasury. It touches upon many areas, and over the years, it's become also more of a strategic type of role. But treasury can take you from liquidity and cash management and risk management to corporate funding and debt capital markets to asset management, and compliance is nowadays also a key player. On top of that, there's, depending on the company, and in the case of Hitachi Energy, there's also big trade finance exposure or captive insurance, to mention a few. So those are skill sets and experiences that probably not many other functions can offer within the function, and positions well young people and high potentials to also branch out in different areas, finance areas. I think prepares very well in terms of risk management know-how and in terms of liquidity, loan funding, structuring, and suits well, for example, for M&A in terms of valuation models or BP&A, so business planning and analysis, where, for example, treasury people from corporate finance are very well positioned to conduct balance sheet analysis, credit ratings, which I think can add value to other functions too. So breadth and depth experience, and I think opportunities to also contribute to other functions outside of treasury and develop career there. Of course, that requires fostering and management of talent, cross-leverage, which sometimes could be a challenge outside of treasury.
No, it's great to hear. And I mean, I think you've had a brilliant career. I mean, one of the things that really jumps out is you had 22 years at Dow before you moved to Hitachi Energy a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think that 22 years in one business that you had at Dow is so, I'd almost call it unique these days, because you don't tend to see that longevity or even the desire maybe for the younger generation to spend that length of time in one business. You know, it's seen as normal now to move companies every 2 or 3 years for a lot of individuals when they're starting out. So I thought I'd ask you really, what if there was a particular memorable moment from your career and why that particularly was?
Right. Well, first of all, I just had 22 years prior career, now almost a couple of years, so almost 25 years in treasury. It's very important to gain different experiences and have different arrows in your quiver to address all kinds of situations. In terms of memorable moments from a career, this is mostly when you have large and complex transactions and you're able to close within a short period of time. That I found great experiences in let's say M&A and project and structured finance, ability to structure 20 plus billion of deals, negotiate the structure of this and financing and the syndication. So that really, after such a sprint, or acquiring or divesting a company, which after such a sprint is a very rewarding moment. So that really defines the experience. Other experiences and memorable moments in risk management, where you take, let's say, prop and trading position and you see how much you can stomach and you can see immediately the results. of your traits, at least after a while, and how you deal with that complexity to make decisions within a short period of time with limited information. So those are some of the key experiences. Of course, at the more memorable moments is really the interaction and interface with people within and leaders within and outside of the function.
And I think we obviously mentioned the 22 years you spent at Dow, and I guess over that time there would have been a number of occasions where you'd been approached to potentially leave the company by external parties and so on. But obviously you stayed loyal to the business and enjoyed a really varied career in a range of different roles and departments over that 22 years with them. I mean, when you look back at that time, I mean, is there something that you really feel that there was a big benefit to staying with them rather than moving out? What was the thinking behind it? Because I think that would be really interesting to hear about, because as I say, in this day and age, it is quite a unique mindset, and there's obviously benefits behind it. Otherwise you wouldn't have stayed there for the length of time you did. So is there anything that you look back on and think, by giving 22 years of my life, my experience, and I really benefited from doing that? Is there any particular areas of benefit that you think really stand out to you?
Well, first of all, you have to be really comfortable with the people and the culture and the organization of the company you work for, and that was the case with me. And then secondly, what's important is to have the ability to develop and do different roles. And that was also depends on how well the company structures kind of rotational programs, development programs, which was very well also addressed within Dow, for example, where I started. So what made it exciting and me able to stay that long with a company was the ability to work in different roles within and outside of Treasury every, let's say 3 years. So that kind of development path and exposure and ability to experience different processes and functions or all areas, mainly all areas of Treasury, made it possible for me to stay longer. Of course, you have to manage the expectations in an early stage of your career development. You can probably switch more often, and skill set is transferable. Later on, skill set and what you've learned is still transferable, but obviously with more senior position, then the waiting period and possibilities and opportunities become less or more limited. So patience probably there is key. But as long as you're happy with a company's culture, development opportunities, and you have the opportunity to take on different roles, I think it's a logical path and development trend. Of course, at a certain point, as I said, then you might consider what are the external and internal opportunities, and pass on a decision to stay or to leave if, let's say, the future trajectory is not that clearly defined. But again, in today's world, dynamic world, nothing is cast in stone. So there's no really a clear path after a certain point. So bottom line, you have to stay flexible and acquire the different experiences that will enable you then to fulfill different roles. There, from a treasury perspective or just strategic thinking, you can see, okay, well, what is in the market? Do I need asset management, risk management, uncertainty, volatility, liquidity, and what skill set I need to address those macroeconomic issues, or let's say corporate issues, and that would just give you the platform and skill set to do that job in any kind of company. In particular, that treasury is fairly a transferable skill across industries, right? Might differ in terms of liquidity requirements, risk management type of requirements, but it's the same principle. That's a transferable skill. So just don't shy away from experience in different areas of treasury and beyond, and that address the macroeconomic trends potentially of the future. And with that skill set, I think you're well positioned to address or to take on any other roles. Millennia, I would say, millennials of today, right? The younger generation is maybe different. There is less of a loyalty to a certain company on brand, which is probably understandable. There's a bit of a trend towards instant gratification, right? I want to be, VP within 6 months, or 2 years, or 3 years. So again, there we need to manage the expectations, I think, and we would have to live with a higher turnover simply because of the reality of today's market. It's much more dynamic, less of a, let's say, brand or corporate company awareness and loyalty. So I think the fight for talent will continue, especially in a tight market today. In a high inflation environment where not only compensation, but development opportunities, training is also key to hire and retain talent. So I think it's becoming more and more challenging than in the future due to market realities or employment market realities, inflation, and mentality, and much more dynamic world. So I think inevitably we'll have to live with higher turnover. But again, if we create the right environment, motivation, rotation, development paths for young talent, I think companies that can offer that will probably be more successful in hiring and retaining such talent. In addition, of course, to the compensation part, which also plays an important role. But even with that, there is much more. With a millennial and younger generation, there's much more tendency to for self-actualization, experiencing different types of jobs, especially at the earlier stage of their careers, either based on vocation, based on skill set, or any other factors, which sometimes are difficult to influence. So that's my experience. A short answer, or a long answer to a short question.
No, it's good though. It's really interesting, and I think you covered a lot in that answer that also links into what you were saying, or we were both saying earlier, about trying to attract and retain people in companies and into the discipline. And part of what this podcast is about is really trying to highlight the exciting journey that you've had and what you can learn in the discipline, the areas it can take you, and the experiences that you can get by committing to a certain part of the finance area and focusing on that over the years, and it's worked very, very well for yourself. And I think obviously what we're talking about a lot at the moment is the historical side of things, and I thought I'd try and bring it back also to the current day. In your current role at ABB Hitachi Energy, I just was wondering what the challenges you face currently in your role are, and where you see almost the future challenges coming around.
The initial challenges were mostly related to the build-up and stabilization of fairly new organization, which I would argue probably now are behind us. Of course, that's a never-ending process of improvement. The challenge in the near term and future challenges is exactly digitization and transformation. What does it mean for us, and how we want to structure and implement that? So that's probably what keeps me awake at night, is what is the transformational now aspect of the treasury organization to stay at the forefront of peers or benchmarks, and how with what tools we're going to implement that. So probably that's the key challenge. In addition, as I mentioned, is hiring and retaining talent in this dynamic environment, labor shortages, inflation, and different type of mindset. So that is probably one area that we'll have to address, although I have not experienced that so far that dramatically, hopefully more by design than coincidence, but time would show how successful we've been recruiting and retaining people. And beyond that is more than leverage of the treasury expertise, breaking the silos, creating one team, and positioning also people and cross-leveraging with other functions to show the treasury capabilities and enhance the treasury brand. That's is also sometimes challenging to promote the treasury brand and position it as a strategic decision maker at the executive table. It varies, depends on the organizations, obviously, but still the overall image integration of treasury within other processes is still at the let's say infant stage. So those are some of the key areas. Not I mentioned, of course, digitization, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, blockchain. What does it mean, and what is fit for purpose? Actually, that's another probably area to watch out, but more of the future. And it seems a lot of companies that I see in treasuries are more sitting and monitoring on trying to assess what those technologies bring and what is needed now. Do you really need, depending on the industry, do you really need instant settlement through blockchain or cryptocurrencies? Do cryptocurrencies or other equivalents fulfill regulatory environments? That's still to be proven. So keeping an eye of new technologies. Is it single instant kind of ERPs and integrated platforms? Are those software as a service or cloud solutions? How much control you want to exercise? So there's a lot of in the technology space, or cloud, I would say nowadays, if I don't call it a metaverse, right, that we're trying to look through, but it's it's a bit cloudy, right, at the moment. So I hope we can see through that and define the future. But that's more of a long-term type of incentive. So short-term, to cut it short, it's more the transformational role of treasury and the overall operating model and integration with other functions.
Hi everybody, it's Paul Thomas here. I hope that you're well and you're enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you once again for your continued support listening to the podcast. I just wanted to break into the recording to talk to you about a really exciting partnership that EMEA Recruitment has along with Operation Smile. And as founder of EMEA Recruitment, it's an honour and a privilege to announce this partnership. Personally, I was born with a cleft lip and palate, so the mission of Operation Smile is something that I have a strong personal connection with. It's not an understatement to say that the dentists and surgeons that helped me were life changers. It's not only about the actual operations that take place, the support and care post and pre-operation are beyond value, and from personal experience I can only say that I'd not be the confident, happy person I am today without this support. I want to help children experience the support and care and skill that I experienced on my journey, and hope that we can do this along with Operation Smile. Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft lip or cleft palate, and the mission of Operation Smile is to provide help and support to these children through providing 6,000 medical volunteers across 80 countries who are dedicated to help these children with facial conditions, most commonly cleft lip and cleft palate. More than 200,000 children are born with a cleft every year, and they are often unable to speak, eat, socialise or even smile. However, it can take as little as 45 minutes and cost just €180 or 182 francs for Operation Smile to provide a child with life-changing surgery. Now, in partnership with Operation Smile, EMEA Recruitment is raising valuable funds and aiming to create 100 new smiles to support the organisation to provide free surgeries for children and young adults all over the world. Please help us by donating through the link in the bio, or get in touch to see how your company can help get involved too. For the moment, I'll leave you to carry on listening to the rest of the podcast, but if there's anything I can do in terms of answering any questions or finding out how you can help and support EMEA Recruitment and Operation Smile, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
I mean, and there's some interesting things you mentioned there. I mean, you obviously you started off talking a bit about the transformation work that you're doing, but also talking about hiring and retaining great talent, which is something that you guys seem to be very, very good at. And I think linking these two things together, I know the company earlier this year won the best treasury transformation project. So you got recognized for the work that you've done at Hitachi ABB. So you link these two things together. You obviously, you've got great people. You're hitting your targets and getting recognized for transformation, which means the great people are doing great stuff for you. So there's obviously a very successful recipe that you've got there. And I just wondered, is there anything that you could highlight as to how you've managed to recruit these quality people? I mean, when you're looking to bring people on board, are there certain steps that you or the business tends to take that means you just focus on getting let's say, the right people for the right role?
Right. No, first of all, I just want to say thank you for recognizing the Treasury Transformational Award that we won. That was more for last year. I used the opportunity here also to recognize the Treasury operations teams of Hitachi Energy, headed by Barna Gergely, who was spearheading this transformational project. It was more setting up a separate treasury management system, integrated intercompany borrowing, lending, forex management, and clearing within a 6 months type of period, which was really a remarkable achievement for the team. Kudos to the team. And that was the platform for future, obviously, transformation, and puts Hitachi Energy at par with other large multinationals globally. So that was the essence of that transformational project, was more the establishment within a short period of time of a state-of-the-art cloud type of TMS solution. Now the challenge is obviously to bring that forward, and as you said, we need the talent, people, and know-how. To do that, obviously, you can acquire that know-how for external consultants, but also we need to develop that further internally. There has been some turnover at the beginning of the carve out of the company, so we hope we found and hired the right people on the interim. What we look at the recruitment during the recruitment process is really I call it trust and competencies. And while competencies we can also develop and train and develop, trust is probably another key aspect or player when we try to hire people. At the end, is a matter of attitude, right? Willingness to learn, not only bringing the competencies, but also be a trustworthy and team player, inclusive player, where we treat people with dignity and respect. So I think the attitude, it's key here too, and the fit for purpose, let's say, team player is really a key role. So that's how we look during the hiring process, and then you try obviously to train and develop those new hires and expose them to different areas or opportunities within their functional area. And there's no lack of that in such a young, I would say, organization. Old, if we consider legacy times, but young in terms of the carve out. So there's a dynamic organization with a lot of new projects coming on stream, such as currently multi-bank connectivity as a single ERPS for HANA implementation. That's SAP globally that we're implementing, and on the back of that, some bank connectivity and potentially future in-house bank or in-house cash setup with pay on behalf type of functionality. So there is a lot of exciting new projects that hopefully would help us retain some of those people. The challenge there is obviously the time frame. Those projects take longer, right? You need to deal also with managing the expectations, patience, and integration, meaning with other functions, because all those projects are dependent on end-to-end type of implementation to ensure secure success. And Treasury plays a certain role in banking infrastructure, flows, liquidity management, etc., but does not own the end-to-end chain, let's say procure to pay, service centers, etc., accounts payable, which then requires a bit more of a, let's say, integration, hand-holding, project management type of skill set to ensure success of those projects. So I think that's a fight of for talent, quality that we're looking, and opportunities that we're trying to create to retain people.
No, I mean, it's really interesting because, I mean, obviously you mentioned about the competencies that you and the team look for in people around trust, being willing to learn, team players, having patience, and just generally having the right attitude. And I guess, going back to what we talked about earlier, you got recognized for the best transformation projects awards that you were doing over the last few months as well. So I guess the reality is also you did all of this over the COVID period when a lot of companies and a lot of people really struggled to hit those highs over that period. I mean, there was I think to try and identify whether somebody is somebody you can trust over a video call. A lot of individuals really struggled with that, and as a result, there was a number of companies that put hiring on hold, and it's over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's why you now see the markets in June 2022, where there's the market that in Switzerland especially, there's a lot of companies looking to recruit now, and fewer people looking for work, which I don't think the market has seen in Switzerland for a number of years. So I was just wondering, how much you had to adapt with the whole COVID situation. I mean, because you obviously were hugely successful, and a number of people listening to this would be very envious of what you achieved in terms of the team you built and the awards that you received for what was a really tough period. So I just wondered, how you adapted the style to deal with the whole COVID situation, and what challenges it brought you, really.
Right. Well, first of all, again, thank you for the team even prior to my joining, who was already working during the carve out and setting up the strategy even before COVID, and a lot of credit to them. And I mentioned already to the treasury operations team in terms of setting up within such a short period, even during COVID, at the beginning of the pandemic, the treasury management system, which was the platform for the transformational capabilities. And I joined also fairly in the midst or early COVID times, November 2020, which was really as you said, a challenging time. Coming new, trying to integrate with people, get a hold of the whole organization, and try to put your feet in the water and test the boundaries of the organization without the in-person meeting was really a challenge. It makes a big difference if you sit in front of somebody and discuss, and you can look at the facial expression or try on gestures and try to establish that link. Much more difficult over video conferences, and it took much longer. But it seems team was very well established and coherent and motivated, so it worked well remotely. I did face some challenges with some turnover and changes during that period, which we luckily managed to master well. At least time will show. Again, in a very tight market and remote type of interviews and hiring process. But nevertheless, we managed to replace certain key positions, which I hope now is appreciated and will serve as a platform for future development and retention. Again, time will show. But I think now with a bit markets and office time opening, it is time for team bonding and more integration to break the silos and try to further integrate treasury and make it enhance the treasury brand. But not only that, it's more to reestablish and reconnect the interpersonal type of connections, which, as you know, the coffee corner chat is sometimes the most productive, or in terms of innovative ideas come much more often, let's say, in-person meetings than online. I notice, of course, depends on the area and type of tasks. And I think the new normal is obviously a combination between home office and office. Time again will show, but if you ask people, simply the efficiencies, the commute time saving and flexibility does still appeal for certain home office time. And I think organizations, though, who want to be successful, should also set up some rules for office times, because that's critical, as I mentioned, to team development, innovation, especially for new hires. So I see it as a combination of both to navigate through the future in terms of flexibility, home office and office presence.
No, I guess it's really great to hear your thoughts on this. And I know we've talked about your career history. We talked about the current role, what the current challenges are in maybe the short to medium term. And I just thought the last question I'd sort of ask you today, George, will be really long term. Obviously you're always somebody who's looking to learn and develop and challenge yourself. I mean, do you have any longer term aims from a personal point of view?
Right. I need to take up some hobbies again, like guitar playing and tennis. So I hope I can go back to some of the more essential rather than remote and video type of tasks. But that's more on the personal side to get a more balance and self-actualization. I actually attended recently a treasurer's conferences, and there was that to develop the front cortex of the brain, and that's the innovative part, right? So you need to do more, listen to more music, do some cooking classes, or of course exercise and sport is key to that. So I thought maybe I should emphasize a bit that to enhance creativity and productivity, trying to navigate for the digital transformation of treasury. Maybe then I see the light at the end of the tunnel. But that's all on the personal side. Clearly, on the professional side, we'll be looking to embark on certain treasury transformational projects that keep us abreast, or at least at par with competition, within, of course, the framework and limitations of current or existing realities, organization, etc. So that will be the challenging part, really, to define that and navigate towards it more from a strategic perspective.
Now, you mentioned that. I think I've got to ask you about the guitar playing. I mean, I'm actually learning myself. I'm at very basic early stages at the moment, trying to go from the basic chords, and it can be quite frustrating. You realize actually you see all these guys on the stage and they make it look so easy, and then I'm struggling to get from a C to a G chord, and it's taking me ages to learn how to do it properly. But are you what kind of level are you at? Are you knocking out some good Beatles or Stones songs? Or are you
right, that was in the past, like Beatles and Stones when I was learning. I probably maybe intermediate level. I played a bit high school, early university, and then somehow stopped or very little, had little time or little opportunities. So looking forward to pick it up. So I'm a bit rusty, but maybe intermediate level, not a beginner. So there's still hope, I think. It's just a matter of time.
So we're going to be keeping an eye on social media for the bands from ABB Hitachi Treasury. Putting some tunes out there.
Sure, I think I should join efforts with some of the team.
That's it.
Who are probably better than me.
Well, it's been great to speak to you today, George. As I say, I know you're really busy, so to get 45 minutes with you today out of your hectic schedule is really much appreciated. I know I've taken a lot from it. I know the network will as well. So really a huge thanks for your time. And if the network wants to reach out to you, what's the best way they can do that?
Right. Well, just ping me anyway, email, any way, even social media link to. So please feel free to reach out at any time.
Perfect. Huge thanks again, George. Enjoy the rest of the day, and good luck with all the treasury challenges and the guitar playing in the meantime.
Thank you. We'll compare notes next time.
Will do. Sounds good. Thanks, George. Speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you'd like to reach out to Paul or myself, please feel free to send a connection through on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to listen to previous episodes of the podcast, you can find them all at our website, www.emearecruitment.eu.